public at large. I would just ask each of you, yes or no, are they worth anything? Go ahead, Sheriff.
Absolutely. It's going to show you the overall, right? But how good in particular that coverage is, that's questionable, right? I think that's always something that could be improved. I'm kind of a trust but verify individual when it comes to that, so that's an individual.
Mr. Agnew.
It provides directional coverage, but with FirstNet, we actually provide much different layers that actually show in-building, outdoor, more specificity before a first responder comes on. So there's much more that a public safety.
So FirstNet is which we've already established, is more reliable than your commercial service.
That's right, with the priority preemption, correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis.
The answer is yes, but I think there's still more work to do.
Yay, thank you. Mr. Meyer.
We call that drive testing in the field. You go out and you check and you verify. I do want to note that for Senator Lujan, I have a phone here that has 2 SIMs in it, one on one carrier, one on the other. And if I could put 3 on it, I'd use all 3. Get one device, sir.
Can I have 30 seconds to respond to that? I think it's important. That's why we're here, right? There's going to be $15 billion going to the FirstNet Authority over the next 25 years. There's a lot of rural departments, Taos, New Mexico, for example, that can't afford 2 SIMs. It would be great if that money went back to the public safety agencies instead of going to one commercial provider to build out their network.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I think Senator Lujan and I should do road trips in New Mexico, and then he comes to Nebraska, and we'll do it in Nebraska, and we'll include Alaska in this as we travel our very sparsely populated areas of the state, and we can tell you exactly where we can do calls. Thank you. Senator Sullivan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're always welcome to Alaska, as you know. And I want to thank the witnesses. It's a really important topic, and I want to thank the chair and the ranking member for holding this hearing. So I want to talk a little bit about some lessons learned on the issues of really remote areas, like my state, like the ranking member and chair's state, and what we learned from the Maui wildfires, because I think there's a lot of lessons learned. So, you know, my state, the great state of Alaska, has benefited from meaningful FirstNet investments and strong response efforts by AT&T and FirstNet response operations groups. But I think the Maui wildfires show that plans and assets must be demonstrably ready before a disaster occurs, especially in remote, challenging regions of the country. And I'd like all the witnesses' views on this. Do you agree that for remote states, but I guess it's really for all states, but in particularly remote big states like mine, that the public safety communications disaster recovery plans must be proven through exercises and logistics testing, not just written commitments? Because I think what happened in Maui is you had all these great written commitments, but there was nothing that was Hawaii specific in the protocols. And I'm now looking at the OIG report that came out, and that the FirstNet Authority approved AT&T's business continuity and disaster recovery plan just 2 months before the Maui wildfires, and yet that plan failed miserably, I think. So can I get everybody's view on that? It's a really important issue. Don't just have a written plan. Hey, this looks good. You got to go test it, especially in a place like my state. It's very remote, very rugged. What's the view on, from all the witnesses, and then what can we, you know, that was just such a horrible tragedy in Maui, my God. But you know, what's the silver lining on lessons learned from that? Because I think there's a bunch, and the OIG report certainly has some.
Yeah. So, Senator,
I'll leave it up to any, all 4 of you.
Yeah, Senator, thank you. And you're right, it was a tragedy. And let me just start with saying oversight's good for the program. It drives continuous growth and innovation, so we meet public safety's needs. And FirstNet is really the only provider with this healthy oversight and is contractually bound to deliver for public safety. So let's talk about learnings. I've been to your state. I've performed public safety exercises in your state, Juneau, Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, working with public safety. I personally know.
Now, by the way, just real quick, those are the big populated areas.
Right,
We had
of course.
typhoon that smashed into western Alaska a few months ago in these remote villages on the western part of our state. And that's where I really want you to.
Right.
I mean, I want you doing exercises in Juneau and Anchorage. Don't get me wrong, but I want you to be doing exercises in some of the most remote parts of America that have been really severely impacted by extreme weather.
Right. So to that end, you made a commentary, you're so far from the mainland, so you have to be self-sufficient. So the business continuity and disaster recovery plans and the resources, you have to be able to self-sustain before the cavalry comes. We take the OIG report very seriously. It is that roadmap for improvement. So let's focus on Maui. Maui had a device, had a deployable on site. It was deployed within 24 hours. We subsequently sent 30 devices, but what I said was subsequently sent, right? It needs to withstand now. So what we've done is we've tripled the amount of assets on each of the islands. So now we can respond much faster. We've coordinated with National Guard and the Hawaii Emergency EOC to receive priority on barges and airlift, so if deployables need to move between the islands. From an Alaska perspective, because that learning didn't just stop at Hawaii, it's now the territories, it's the U.S. Virgin Islands, it's Puerto Rico, it's Alaska, where we have to operate differently and deploy more assets. So we've actually doubled the assets in Alaska and continuing. We're updating and we'll continue to update our business continuity disaster recovery plans to continue to show what we're doing there. But to answer your question directly about testing it, not just putting on paper, yes. And that's why we have a dedicated ROG team with that specific responsibility to coordinate with your state. This is Alaska, this is Hawaii, this is North Carolina, this is New Mexico and Nebraska. We're required to coordinate that effort. So thank you.
That's a good answer. Anyone else have a view on that? I'm sure you all do, but it's a really important question.
Yeah, very important question, Senator. And the tragedy in Maui was just devastating. And this is exactly why we're here and exactly why the reliance on a single network provider is a risk to public safety and something that we just cannot afford. So, from our perspective, the only true service of last resort is redundancy. Yeah. So disaster plans must be tested physically, not just contractually. Our contract is with our network and our customers, not a federal mandate. But more importantly, public safety agencies need access to multiple networks. If the primary network fails, whether due to a wildfire, a fiber cut, or a cyber attack, Alaska's first responders need to be able to immediately switch to another carrier.
Good. And by the way, my state, we get a lot of natural disasters, right? Earthquakes, wildfires, tsunamis, you name it, we get them. So it's really important. Any other thoughts on this? I know I'm over time, but it's an important question.
Just a short note to say that networks, when they're overloaded, damaged, or simply unavailable, it's a problem. First responders have to communicate with each other and communicate with the public. And we believe at APCO International, our members do this every day, is that we plan. We plan with redundancies. We have multiple ways to communicate. These may be land mobile radios, it may be high frequency radios, it could be multiple carriers, a mix of technologies that really is field tested. You talked about scenarios. Scenarios exist today that you can tabletop, but how do they work in the field?
Yeah.
Allow the first responders to work out in the field to find those gaps, identify them, make corrections. You'll have more successful outcomes.
Good. Sheriff, you want to wrap it up here?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, the state of Florida handles its fair share of natural disasters as well, too. And one of the things that we know and have learned that I think the authority as a board is pushing for is this concept of critical complement, which is what needs to be done after these after-action reports. A, is it predictable? If it's predictable, it's preventable, right?
Yeah.
B, is it a practical application of resources where it's at? So we can have all the resources in the world, but if they're only in DC, they're not doing anybody any good. So I think what we've learned as we step up these after-action reports is that there has to be at least a critical complement for all areas of the country. I think that's a build-out process. I'm not going to tell you it's perfect today because it's not, but that is part and parcel of learning from these national disasters.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan.